Hello, this is John from caveofprogramming.com, and in this tutorial we're going to look at how you can use an image that the user has selected from the gallery in your application. Specifically, we're going to look at how you convert a gallery URI to an actual file name that your application can use. So in the last tutorial we looked at creating an intent to browse the gallery using this intent action pick and media store images.media external content URI intent, and that opens the gallery, and I've used start activity for result and supplied this value browse gallery request that I defined, which is just equal to 1, I think, but that's completely arbitrary. And then in on activity result we say that if the request code is browse gallery request, in other words if we're returning from that activity that I just started, the gallery one, then I'm going to do intent.getData, where the intent in question is this one here that's passed to my on activity result. So whatever you call this up here, that's what we're talking about down here, and I'm just saying, in this case I called it data, and I'm saying data.getData, but actually maybe it's less confusing to call it intent and then say intent.getData. And now what intent.getData does when you're returning from the gallery is it gets you a URI of an image, so not a file name but an identifier of that image within the gallery. And I output some debug information here, and if we go to DDMS and look at it, this is what it looks like. It's contents / media external images media and then some number, and that identifies the image uniquely within the gallery, but it's no use for actually displaying an image in an image view, because for that we really need a URI or a file name or something like that, or a bitmap. So to get the actual URI of the actual file, the actual image file itself, we need to do a little bit of extra work. And the stuff I'm about to show you, it certainly works on my phone, and as far as I know it works on the majority of phones, but if the user has installed a custom file manager or something like that, it's possible that it might not work. And I've even seen suggestions that sometimes the images in the gallery can be so big that you can't set them in an image view, and that's maybe a memory issue. I've never had that problem myself, but at least one person on the internet says that. And so there are images surrounding this whole there are issues surrounding this whole business, and if you want this to definitely work in your application, I'd encourage you to do some googling with strings like Android, Java, gallery, browse image, and look at all the different solutions you can find and see if there are any issues that people mention that you might want to fix yourself. But the method that I'm going to show you here should work kind of, I don't know, 99% of the time, I would hope. So what I need to do is I need to query the gallery basically, and the first thing we need to do is create an array of columns of data that we will want our query to return. So I'm going to say here string array equals, and I'm going to define a string array here, and in it I'm just going to put one value, which is going to be media store dot images dot media dot and data is the one we want, this one here, this is quite sort of unintuitive, I would say. Let's call that columns, but this is what you need to use. And notice this kind of media store images dot media, we actually already used that when we were creating the intent to browse the gallery in the first place, media store images dot media, but then we used external content URI, and here we need to use the data value to say that this is actually going to filter the column that we bring back. So we're going to query the gallery, and we could bring back a load of different columns for each image giving different bits of information, but I just want the one that actually contains the actual location of the actual data, the image data on disk, and this is the column that happens to contain that. And the next thing we do is we say get content resolver, and that's a method of your activity and query. And the query takes a URI, and the URI here, this first value here, is going to be intent.getData in my case. So let's say here, for example, URI image URI equals intent.getData. And I appreciate a lot of this seems a little unintuitive, and we may well get back to doing queries on things and resolving content in a future tutorial. But for the moment I'm just going to show you how it works so you can get at least an initial look at it. And the intent here, as I just explained, is this intent here. So I'm getting the URI from my intent, and then I need to supply it as the first argument to this query, image URI. And now the second one, which is strangely called projection, is actually the list of column names that I want to bring back. So I'm going to supply this string list of columns to bring back, and the rest of these columns here I'm not going to use, so I'm going to set them equal to null, null, null and null. Now if I save that, yeah, the error goes away, and this actually brings back a cursor object. So I'm going to say cursor equals get content resolver.query. Now the cursor is kind of a pointer into a set of results, and there should only be one result here, of course, so we're not going to make too much use of it. But the cursor, when it's returned, is positioned before the first result. So what I need to do is move it to point at the actual first result by saying cursor.move to first, and now it will be pointing at the actual first result. And I'll need to say cursor.close, so I'll do that already here so I don't forget. It's important to close cursors or you'll have, I don't know, maybe a memory leak. And then in between these two, so of course before cursor.close, I can say cursor.get. Now there's a bunch of methods here, and actually I want to say get column index and supply it the column name, which is going to be columns bracket array bracket 0. There we go, 0. Now if we're saying here we only want to bring back one column, so I presume the column index will be 0, but I'm not completely sure, and all the example code I've seen for doing this has gone through the business of getting the index of the right column within the results and then getting the column in 2 steps. So I'll follow that here as well, although I'm not sure it's necessary. So I'll say here int column index equals cursor.get column index and supply the name of the column, which is just this here from this array. And now having done that, I can say cursor.get string and supply the column index, which is the one that I just found. And as I say, I think this would probably always be 0, but I'm really not sure, so I'm going to err on the side of caution and do what all the examples I've seen do. And now that string that's returned should be the actual path to the image. So let's say path equals, well, let's say something like image path equals, and now because I actually want to store a URI, because that's what my camera action returned, I can, if I want, convert that to a URI. So I can say I've got a URI, which is my instance variable here, it's my image. I'm going to say equals image equals URI dot parse and pass it the image path. Now from there on I'm already handling what I want to do, and what I actually do is I start another activity and pass it that image URI, the one that I just got here. So I get an image path and pass it into a URI, and then I pass that on to my image activity. But it's actually pretty simple what actually goes on here. And if I just follow this through, so let's take a look. In fact, let's expand the source view here, and here's my image activity, and it's got this method reset, where are we, reset image or something like that, set image. So it actually gets passed into here, and all that does is it says image view, and this is a handle to my image view got from the XML layout dot set image URI, and it passes it that URI. And image views have a bunch of methods for setting images using a bitmap, or I think you can also use a string, so I could have used the string directly. So set image, drawable, set image, bitmap, so maybe not a string. Yeah, so if I had a file name, I'd need to use bitmapfactory.decode image or whatever it's called, which we covered in a previous tutorial. But here I'm just using the URI directly to set the image on the image view. And now let's go back to main activity now. So with a bit of luck, now we should get the image URI here, and I've got some debug output to just output the path, just image.getPath on that URI here. So just get path, and that should display the actual file name of my image. And let's just try that and run it. And while this is running, let me just quickly recap. So basically, to take the relevant bits out of this application, you need to start the right intent to browse the gallery with intent.actionPick and the external content URI of mediastoreimages.media. And then in onActivityResult, check that you're returning from the right activity in the usual way, and then specify the columns you want to get for your image, and you do get content resolver.query, pass it the image URI, which you can get from intent.getData, assuming the user's using the standard gallery that's already installed on their phone and not some custom kind of gallery or something. And pass it the columns that you want to get, which is going to be this data column here from the media store called cursor.move to first, and then get the actual column that you want using get column index and passing it the column name, which again is this here. And then we get the path by saying cursor.getString and passing it the column index. And if you want, you can convert that to a URI by saying URI.parse, and don't forget to close the cursor. So finally, let's take a look and see if this works. So I'm going to go to my application now and log into my application, and whoops, I think I touched the wrong points there. Let's try again. There we go. And let's go to replace image here and browse the gallery. And when the gallery comes up, I will select a picture, and this has actually gone through now to the next bit of my application. So I've put some more code in my application that and you can see actually in the background here, it's actually worked. It's actually set the my image view to use the image using the URI that I retrieved down here. And if I touch 4 points on my application, I can log into my application. And if I look at what's been retrieved in the debug output here, it's the actual name of an image. So we've gone from an image URI, which looks like this, content, media, external images, and so on, which is not much use for actually using with the image view, to getting this actual path to an image, which I can convert to a URI and use directly with my image view to display the image. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial. Quite a lot of stuff and a little bit obscure, but I'd encourage you, if you feel like you got lost with this, just do what I did, which was basically just Google like Android Java pick gallery image or something like that, and just look at example code and cut and paste it and modify it for your own needs, which is a really good way to learn Java in general, I find. Okay, so that's it for this tutorial, and until next time, happy coding.